It is Ray Skywalker mid-morning. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. Let us turn our attention to the latest iteration of very easy meditation. We could begin with the first quarter of mindful crease counting meditation. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Multiply this by 8 sets, and you have 96. We count those 8 sets in our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations each. To keep track of our first quarter, we could rest the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger upon the tip of our left little finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the bladder region of our lower abdomen. Come, let us demystify enlightenment. We can be spiritual, but the majority are religious. And where spirituality is flexible and laid back, the religious are rigid and controlling. When we strive to learn meditation from, I got way ahead of myself. So let's try it this way. When we work with teachers who are laid back and flexible, it affects the definitions of the terminologies that we play with. Also, when we work with teachers who are religious and rigid and controlling, that also affects the definitions of the terms we work with. Casting them in an elitist light. So if you ask someone who's rigid what's it like being a Buddha, they'll say, well, it takes a long time to become Buddha, longer than the lifespan of the universe. Well, the universe would have to be constructed and collapsed 3 times before you get to be a Buddha. However, when we read the discourse on the 4 bases of mindfulness, the Buddha promised that his path could be mastered in as little as a week or 2. So I say to you that enlightenment is nothing more than mastery of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. And what do we mean by mastery? When we master anything, like a child might learn how to master using the toilet, brushing their teeth, tying their shoes, riding a bike. When we master any skill, we are able to practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. In art, the term masterwork means that a journeyman has shown that they've mastered the medium. So not only is this possible generally, here's the trick, here's the shortcut. When we play with mindfulness's 7th fold and meditation's 8th fold of the Buddha's path, every 12 hours or so, the remaining 6 folds of the Buddha's 8-fold path take care of themselves. I'll be explaining this in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, and the 4th quarter of this mid-morning's live stream. This one, right here, right now. Given the importance of mindfulness and meditation, let us cut through confusion and myth by viewing it through the lens of neuroscience. And we can do that after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School for more than 30 years. I've spent about 8 hours a day almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. And now, let's get it on. Please chant with me. The nudity of the octypical couple sporting in tantric union reminds us of the vulnerability so crucial to mindfulness. Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks. Since the Neolithic Revolution, societies have been training their citizens to be so rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel that when even a minority of its denizens, just 10%, strive to be flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind, these folk do everything they can to undermine them. Go to a wharf, and where they trap crabs, and you'll see great big huge vessels full of live crabs. Occasionally one or two will make a break for it, and I kid you not, their fellows will grab them and pull them back in. Homostasis is a powerful and destructive drive. Therefore, we should not be surprised when these religious, rigid, and controlling individuals trying to teach others meditation, they implore their students to actively focus and actively analyze. Now, there's a fly in the ointment. The only neural pathways that are capable of focus and analysis are the ones found in the discrete pathways in regions such as the medial prefrontal cortex and dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. When we overwork this region, it triggers our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression. And you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to know that that's not what folks signed up for. No one says, you know what, I've got a deficiency of anxiety in my life. I need more rage. I think I'll meditate. No. People meditate for the opposite reason. They don't want anxiety. They want peace. They don't want rage. They don't want to be angry with others. They want to be loving towards others. But I've got some good news for you. Now that I've thrown shit in your general direction, how about some good news? Neither the prefrontal cortex nor the amygdala constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Whew. That's good news. And I'm going to demonstrate this over the next 3.5 quarters of this practice. During this quarter, let's look at mindfulness with greater detail. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we're already wired by evolution to access our sympathetic nervous system automatically. Our sympathetic nervous system is ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to help us to notice in a very special way. It has evolved to help us notice, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. What is it that we have evolved to notice? Mind's antics of perception, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. That's a whole bunch of stuff going on at the same time. It could feel like I'm asking you to juggle tennis balls while walking backwards down the street. Fortunately, there's an easy way to practice this. Every time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we influence our cerebral cortex is influenced to cooperate with our sympathetic nervous system. But what do we do with all the stuff that we notice? That brings us to meditation, and we're just going to look at it superficially at this moment. Every time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verbies during our exhalation, we release what we noticed during our previous inhalation to the degree that what we noticed now fleetingly could feel less solid, less permanent, and less defining. Now let's return. Let's see how this fits into the context of the Eightfold Path. The more we practice mindfulness and meditation, the more more familiar we become with the literal impermanence that supports our release of what we noticed during the previous inhalation. Doing so does not stop us from noticing. We're supposed to notice. Doing so helps free us from the tyranny of that which we noticed, so that our choices and our utterances and our deeds are less controlled by hate and greed. So together as a team, let us meditate right now. Ahem. And by the way, if you are sitting on the floor or on a cushion on the floor, allow me to remind you that the most ancient Buddha statues did not depict the Buddha sitting in the full lotus position, but rather the quarter lotus position, where one shin is just resting upon the other. And our feet are twisted so that rather than the crowns of our ankles resting on the ground, it's the top of our feet. This twist does not come from the knee, it comes from the hip. Now don't force it. If you can't sit this way perfectly, that's fine. Allow time and gravity to do their healing work on your hip joints. Welcome to the second quarter of crease counting meditation. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Multiply this by 8 sets, and you've got 96. We can count those 8 sets on our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations each. To keep track of this, our second quarter, we can rest the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger, upon the tip of our left ring finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the navel region of our mid-abdomen. Please chant with me. The translucence of the archetype of all good father and mother depicted in paintings reminds us of meditation's experience of impermanence and non-graspability. We'll begin with a bit of review, a splash of review, if you will, beginning with mindfulness. Every time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we cannot help but vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. But what are we to do with all these things that we notice? After all, there's quite a bit of them. We could notice the external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. What are we to do with them? Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are already wired to automatically access the parasympathetic nervous system divided between the lower third and the upper third of our spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. When we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, our cerebral cortex is induced to cooperate with our parasympathetic nervous system, as opposed to repress it. Doing so could help us to release what we noticed during our previous inhalation to such a degree that what we noticed, that it could feel like that what we had noticed had momentarily become as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Now, any good English teacher will remind us that a simile is only as powerful as it is relatable. So, you have to ask the question, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, is non-graspable to the hand? Let us place this within the context of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. By simply playing with mindfulness and meditation every 12 hours or so, our familiarity with figurative emptiness grows and further supports our mental release. Therefore, together as a team, let us meditate right now Oh yeah, by the way, the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, or Buddhist philosophy, please type your question right away in great detail in the chat window. Please strike while the iron is hot. Furthermore, please notice this drawing here. Every time we inhale, we are wired to generate a vertical traction between our tush and our head. To the contrary, or to the converse, every time we exhale, that traction can release, at least a little bit. Don't worry, this is an automatic process. All we do is open wide our doors of perception to perceive that which we would normally overlook. Hello, Caitlin. Welcome to the third quarter of Mindful Crease Counting Meditation. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Multiply this by 8 sets, and you've got 96. We could count those, we could keep track of those 8 sets on our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations each. We could keep track of this, our third quarter, by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger, upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the heart region of our chest. Please chant with me. The beauty of the archetype sky blue kuntu zongpo and cloud white kuntu zongpo yam. Remind us of the highest love, spontaneous and uncontrived. So we're going to start with a bit of review. Describe a problem and then describe its solution. Rigid and controlling meditation teachers implore us to actively focus and actively analyze. Doing so fatigues our prefrontal cortex, triggering our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression. Recognizing the toxicity of aggression, we could try to remedy it, but as prisoners of the sunk cost logical fallacy, we try to remedy that which was caused by focusing and analysis, by applying even more focus and analysis, this time to the concept of love. That is what the late Tukul Tundup meant when he talked about the contrivance of focus and analysis, leading only to love's analog, weak and flaccid and impotent. However, if we practice mindfulness by silently and mentally reciting the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation, thus empowering us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination, including anxiety and aggression. And by practicing meditation, silently and mentally reciting the one-syllable verbies during each exhalation, causing us to release what we noticed during our inhalation, even if what we noticed was anxiety and aggression, to the point that that same anxiety and aggression could fleetingly feel less solid, less permanent, and less defining. And so, even though we still would possess the capacity for anxiety and aggression, they would control our choices, utterances, and deeds less and less and less. But wait, there's more. play with mindfulness and meditation every 12 hours or so. And you will stimulate your anterior cingulate gyrus. In this diagram, that is represented by this magenta region in the shape of a letter C. This bad boy functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy and compassion and love. And this is exactly what Tulku Thanda meant when he taught that the highest love is the spontaneous and uncontrived and effortless byproduct of mindfulness and meditation. And that is significant because the Buddha taught that loving kindness comprises 50% of his Eightfold Path. The kind intention, kind communication, kind conduct, and commerce that is as cooperative as it is kind. These become available to us as a simple byproduct of mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness of whatever comes up, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. Whether that which comes up is external or internal, physical or mental, pleasurable or painful, interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque. So together as a team, let us meditate right now, and do remember, the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, or Buddhist philosophy, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. Welcome to the fourth quarter of mindful crease counting meditation. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Multiply this by 8 sets, and you've got 96. We could count those 8 sets on our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations each. We could keep track of the fourth quarter by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the crown region of our head. Please chant with me. The stability with which a archetype sky blue samanta mandara sits, and the abandon with which cloud white samanta bandari sports, reminds us of the effortless effort of centered spontaneity. Let us review. The most efficient way to practice mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation, which, thanks to our sympathetic nervous system, could help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. It could help us to notice these things. It could also help us to notice that of these things, some we really like and some we really hate. It could also help us to notice that we tend to resist the absence of what we desire. And we also tend to resist the presence of what we dread. Sometimes this can save our life. Sometimes this can gum things up. Let us explore meditation. The most efficient way to meditate is to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. Doing so, thanks to our parasympathetic nervous system, could help us to so physically relax and mentally release that we let go of our resistance to the absence of what we desire, and also let go of our resistance to the presence of what we dread. Now, this could sound scary, especially if we were raised to be really controlling and really anxious and really superstitious. We could be scared that this will make us into some sort of a victim or a doormat upon which life's boots could scrape its mud. But consider this. The more we practice mindfulness and meditation, the more we will notice our choices and utterances and deeds flowing from the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity, which must not be confused with the scattered spontaneity we often experience after our fourth espresso. This is the centered spontaneity That is the natural momentum of mindfulness and meditation. We could think of this as going with the flow or surfing our Buddha nature. But what is Buddha nature? Buddha nature is a charming Iron Age way of describing what now, in the digital age, through the tools like the functional magnetic resonance imaging, we're able to notice, we're able to discover that there are facets to our central nervous system that facilitate enlightenment, that facilitate mindfulness, that facilitate meditation, that facilitate empathy. This is why the Buddha could say with confidence that within 7 days one could master his Eightfold Path. Therefore, together as a team, let us meditate right now. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 2 3/4 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's afternoon meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.